If you ever played FE1, 3, 11, or 12, you may have heard about Artemis' curse. It is only mentioned briefly, so maybe you forgot about it, or just didn't think much of it at the time. But the gist of the curse is that the Fire Emblem is the end of war, but also the end of love. This curse originates in the Archanean games, but what's interesting is that it may reach out beyond its original timeline. First, I should explain how the curse works in the Archanean games. It all starts when Nina gives Marth the Fire Emblem. She says that the House Archanea bestows it only upon a true champion, one we believe has the power to save the world. Then we first hear about the curse after Marth defeats Camus. Nina states, "Ever since I gave you the emblem, I just knew. Have you heard the story of Artemis' curse?" Marth responds with a simple no, as he always does in these games. Nina explains, the last time the Fire Emblem changed hands to save House Archanea, it was not without cost. There was a princess named Artemis who loved your ancestor Henri with all her heart. He loved her as well, but when Medius appeared, the two were parted forever. She cursed the Fire Emblem, calling it the end of war, but also the end of love. Now the emblem has changed hands again, and I am the one who is cursed. Jagan adds to this even further when he says the nobles of Archanea didn't want Henri, a commoner, to become their king. More than that, they strongly encouraged the princess to wed Duke Cardus, the guy who Artemis gives the Fire Emblem to, who led the Liberation Army. Princess Artemis had no way of refusing. The bearer of the Fire Emblem must give their life to the royal family. That is a saying passed down unchangingly in House Archanea. And so, without telling a word to Henri, the princess accepted her engagement to Duke Cardus. He continues, what was worse was that the princess died immediately after giving birth to her newborn prince. Also, King Henri never married in his life. Marth puts it all together, calling it a tragic tale, all because of the curse of the Fire Emblem. Boa adds more to the curse, saying House Archanea must truly be cursed. He explains that Nina and Hardin were forced to marry. Marth brings up Camus, knowing that Nina was in love with him. Boa says that it would be heresy, and they had no choice but to force this political marriage to save the country. So we can see the parallels between the forbidden love of Artemis and Henri and Nina and Camus, and how it was repeated. And lastly, if you're a heartless bastard and let Sita die in Shadow Dragon, the final chapter will be renamed Artemis' Curse, and Nina will say this: Marth, do not blame yourself. Remember Henri and Artemis. We are their descendants. Perhaps we were always meant to share their curse as well as their blood, and perhaps only that the curse has exacted its price could our battle with the Shadow Dragon be won. This peace we have made, we must cherish it, Marth. We have both paid so dearly for it. Let us work together to ensure none endure a tragedy like ours again. This is a cool bit of detail, but it's obviously not the true ending. However, it does show how the curse can affect both parties of the exchange. So putting this all together, Artemis' curse is very much real. Artemis and Nina both give the Fire Emblem away, and they win the war both times, but at the cost of this victory, Artemis and Nina both lose their chance of happiness with the one they love, Henri and Camus respectively. So the rules for the curse are as follows. The Fire Emblem must exchange hands, and then something tragic will happen to one or both of the parties of the exchange. But we can take this curse one step further. All Fire Emblem games involve both war and love, right? So what if this curse actually does extend into other games in the series? Well, I'm here to tell you that it does. Now, the curse doesn't repeat in all games, but it does in most of them. I'm going to run through these pretty quick because I don't want this video to drag on forever. First, we take a look at Awakening, as Elise is Archanea's direct descendant, though we are mainly looking at Lucina's future. In it, Emerin gives Chrom the Fire Emblem, and soon after she dies. Chrom also dies in this future, and at the hands of his best friend and or lover no less. The alternate futures in Awakening are confusing, but Lucina, Chrom's daughter, does succeed in killing Grima and bringing peace to the world in the end. But she cannot share that saved future with her beloved parents. In the Alib games, in FE7, the Fire Emblem changes hands a lot actually, from Burns' royal family to the Black Fang to Eliwood's group, and then back to Burns' royal family. A number of tragedies strike each of these parties as Zephiel kills his own father, and the royal family is completely torn apart. Nearly every member of the Black Fang ends up dead. Eliwood slays Ninian, who he truly loves. Ninian is brought back, however, but depending on the ending, she either goes back to the Dragon's Gate, never to see Eliwood again, or she marries Eliwood, but ends up deathly sick soon after. In FE6, Guinevere gives Roy the Fire Emblem, thinking that he will be the only one to win the war. Roy wins the war, but Guinevere pays the price as she cannot live a happy life with her brother Zephiel, who she loved. On the continent of Magvel in FE8, the Fire Emblem is Grado's Sacred Stone, which is split in half by Leon. This is basically the Fire Emblem exchanging hands. Leon does this so he can revive his dead father. He succeeds, but is met with a terrible fate in exchange, as the Demon King possesses his body and he is forced to fight his two best friends, Ephraim and Erica, to the death, ending their chances of living as loving friends. In the Tellius games, Laeron's medallion is the Fire Emblem, and it gets passed from Lilia, a Heron princess, to Elena, Ike's mother. Lilia then dies, and the goal was for Elena to return it to the Sereness Forest. However, her and her husband Grail had to flee from Dane's army for several years until they finally settled in Gallia. In Gallia, Grail mistakenly touches the medallion, which amplifies the chaotic energy in a person and drives them berserk. Grail goes berserk and impales Elena just as she is able to wrestle the medallion from his grasp, ending the happiness that Elena and Grail shared. Their daughter Mist then inherits the medallion, and in the end she is able to help bring peace to the land. In the Fates games, the Yado, more specifically the Yado's final form, is the Fire Emblem. In the beginning of the game, the Yado chooses Corrin to be its wielder, the exchanging of the hands. With the Yado, Corrin is able to end the war, but is also met with many tragedies, regardless of the route. In Birthright, Corrin loses Elise and Xander. In Conquest, Corrin loses Takumi and Ryoma. In both routes, Corrin loses both Azura and Lilith, ending their chances of living happily together thereafter. So we can see that throughout many games, when war begins, the Fire Emblem goes through an exchange of hands. The war is won, but there is a price to pay, which is paid by one or both parties of the exchange. The price is the end of love, whether that be the death of a loved one or forbidden love that can never come to be. This was just an observation I had after playing through the Archanean games, and Artemis' Curse caught my eye. It's a subtle piece of backstory that holds a lot more value than what you might have first thought. Being the namesake of the franchise, the Fire Emblem should have some sort of theme attached to it, and I feel like this dark cursed theme fits the franchise well, as the games are all about war, and war is never good. It brings death and rips families, friends, and lovers apart. So what are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments, and if you like this video, give it a like and subscribe for more. See ya!